Gochiusa, Gochumon wa usagi desu ka, or Is the Order a Rabbit, is a pretty standard slice of life show on the surface. But of course, this coffee-fueled moe is just the tip of the iceberg, and in this video series, I'd like to take you on a journey through the many layers underneath. So I've read Gochiusa back to front several times, and while waiting for season 3, I've rewatched seasons 1 and 2 more times than I'd like to admit. Who am I kidding? I wear that badge proudly. Number's around 30, by the way. Anyways, even with that, I'm not even close to being one of the most knowledgeable people about this franchise. For one thing, I don't live in Japan, which is relevant because 98% of their merch and events are on the other side of the planet. And for another, I haven't really explored this franchise outside of its official media. But luckily, the Rabbit household was kind enough to make a Gochiusa Iceberg with significant contribution from Kivov, and let me use it for this video. I made some modifications on my end, so here's the before and after. For the first video in this 3-part series, I'd like to cover layers 1 and 2 as sort of an introduction to the franchise. Starting at the top is the surface level knowledge that pretty much everyone knows. Even people not into the franchise might know about these. The first thing in this level would probably be the basic knowledge of the character's existence. Chino is quite popular in particular, and Gochiusa characters have appeared in a lot of things besides just the manga and anime. Rhythm games, regular games, collabs, and most importantly the Anime Girl Noises channel. Between all the external exposure they get, I'm sure even some non-fans recognize their faces and general personalities, like she's Genki, she's shy, she's silly, she's got a gun, and she's blushing. Speaking of external exposure, I think a lot of people outside of Gochiusa know the coffee and green tea scene. It's funny though, with a lot of memes like these, the fans tend to forget about it, while for non-fans, it's probably one of the first things that comes to mind. I've had similar experiences with the Death Threats meme from D4DJ. Now, speaking of memes, the meme that introduced me to Gochiusa was actually the 3 Ayayas meme, which points out the similarities between Kurumi from School Live, Aya from Kiniro Mosaic, and Rize from Gochiusa. The connection was stronger between Rize and Aya, and didn't really include Kurumi that much, as Rize and Aya are much more similar, being a part of unrequited crushes, providing straight man retorts, having the tendency to blush, and of course, sharing a voice actor. Kurumi, on the other hand, really just had the purple hair and signature weapon like Rize. Additionally, the creators of Kiniro Mosaic and Gochiusa seem to get along with many collab pieces between them. And speaking of collabs, Gochiusa collaborated with both Bang Dream and D4DJ, which I feel compelled to mention because that is what I cover on my main channel. There have been a variety of other collabs, including Sanrio and Idly Pride, the latter of which I grinded over 290,000 diamonds for, equating to over 8,000 pulls, on top of farming enough materials to limit break 2 entire units 5 times to max, all while having the handicap of not being able to pull for new and stronger units because I was saving my gems, essentially playing the game on hardcore mode and clawing at every single support unit I could get my hands on, and still progressing through the game fast enough that I was consistently 60 levels under the recommended, and to do so I had to learn the ins and outs of buff mechanics, developing a small meta unique to my own account because I couldn't pull for actual top tiers, which basically resulted in every level being a prayer for a lucky crit to clear it, repeat for literally thousands of stages, just to find out that the collab isn't coming to global servers. Which, you know, I was a little salty about, but hey, I guess I have Hatsune Miku to show for it. Sorry, what I meant to say is, man, this franchise sure gets around. Next is the second season ending, Tokimeki Poporon. This ending was everywhere. It's catchy, cute, and I think the most iconic song of the entire franchise. So much so that I bet some of you can probably hear the lyrics to it right now. And the animation, well, I called the song cute, but this ending animation is probably what got a lot of people into Gochiusa. In fact, this animation was so widespread that it spawned an edit where someone put audio of a creditreport.com advertisement over it, which became well known. Another fan edit added English subtitles to the song, which were drastically darker than the actual lyrics for comedic effect. This video blew up, causing many people who don't speak Japanese to think the song was actually this dark and gritty. And while not to the same extent as Tokimeki Poporon, Daydream Cafe, as the first opening of the series, I think deserves an honorable mention as a song almost as iconic as Tokimeki Poporon. The song I just talked about is sung by a group of 3 characters called Chimame Tai. Chimame Tai consists of the 2 childhood friends, Maya and Megu, as well as Chino, whom they abducted into their friend group because of a misunderstanding, thinking she was a ballista instead of a barista. The reason they needed a ballista was for a cyst map, which is sort of like a treasure hunt designed to show you around the city. This group got their official name when Rize, their upperclassman, took these 3 to the pool and gave this group a nickname, taking the first syllable of Chino, Maya, and Megu to form the Chimame Core or Chimame Tai in Japanese. This is the first of many arbitrarily categorized groups to be introduced in the series, and it is far from the last. Moving on, the next layer of the iceberg is stuff that people who have watched the show would or should know. Other than the main 5, there are several other characters introduced throughout the show. This includes Cocoa's sister, Mocha, as well as the pair of childhood friends mentioned earlier, Maya and Megu, who is objectively the best character in the franchise by the way, and the author, Aoyama Blue Mountain, who is often being chased around by her editor, Rin. In Season 3, we are introduced to a handful of Cocoa's classmates, alongside Rize's classmate and childhood, well I guess, friend? Yuri. Although it is more accurate to say that she was introduced in Season 2 and fleshed out in Season 3, seeing as she didn't even have a name. Like with most shows, these characters are more than their surface level appearances. As for Cocoa, she's the only main character not from the town where the show takes place. Despite how cheery she is, even she has times when she's discouraged and exhibits an inferiority complex with her sister, as well as a sister complex with her housemate. She is also surprisingly good at math and baking, which she learned from her brothers and sister respectively. Chino is shy and often reluctant to show her affection to Cocoa, and this reserved nature of hers is often chalked up to the fact that she lost both her mother and grandfather at a young age. Oh, interestingly, it seems to be only Cocoa who Chino refuses to admit she likes. Chino also has a love for rabbits, though said rabbits tend to avoid her. Chiya is a prankster who also loves Japanese culture and is quite clingy, as she's often told by Syaro. Her eccentricity leads to the cafe she works at to have a menu that is almost incomprehensible to normal people, as all the items sound like attacks from a battle manga. There is a simplified menu for first-time customers, but Cocoa is no normal person, so she doesn't need it and is able to decipher the wacky nicknames first try. Chiya herself also says she feels too normal when handing it out, so it doesn't seem much use. She enjoys performing comedy duo sketches with her semi-unwilling partner Syaro and her much more willing partner Cocoa. Rize is calm, cool, and collected at first glance. However, upon further inspection, she is just desperately trying to hide her femininity because of her family's military background. She is insanely strong, but she only sees that as a hindrance to fitting in. She has a sweet tooth and a father complex and goes into overdrive whenever she gets the slightest bit of praise. Syaro is, on the surface, a refined and elegant rich lady breezing her way through life, but in reality is a struggling high school student who works multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. She can't have caffeine or she gets caffeine high, which Cocoa is very quick to try to abuse. She is terrified of rabbits, though she often finds rabbits attracted to her for whatever reason. She also has a very strong admiration for Rize, who is a year older than her, and historians will say they were very good friends. As a show about rabbits and coffee, it's no surprise that there are many cafes in the show, most of which are rabbit-themed. Cocoa, Rize, Chino, and her dad work at the main cafe, Rabbit House, which has a quiet and calming atmosphere, probably due to the almost complete lack of customers, leaving them on the verge of bankruptcy. Chiya works with her grandmother at Amausa-an, which is a Japanese sweets shop with a flair for the dramatic. Syaro works at many places including a crepe stand and Fleur de la Pin, an herbal tea cafe with a flashy uniform to say the least. Back at Cocoa's hometown, her mom and her sister run the Hot Bakery. Yes, that's what it's called. Some side characters that weren't mentioned earlier were the main cast's parents. It is heavily implied that Rize and Chino's dad served in the military together, then started a jazz band with Chino's mom, who was friends in high school with Cocoa's mom. Megu's mom is a ballet teacher who seems to have no connection to the other parents. The only thing we know about the generation before that is that Chino's grandfather at Rabbit House started a rivalry with Chiya's grandmother over some coffee on Mitsu. You might think that Tippy is just a cute mascot, but she is actually Chino's pet Angora rabbit who got possessed by the soul of her grandfather, having lamented that being a rabbit would be so much easier than running a struggling coffee shop. This happened to be right when a young Cocoa was passing by, bringing some dramatic irony with her as she casted a spell that gave him exactly what he asked for. Chino constantly has to cover for her grandfather yelling using Tippy's body, often attributing his outbursts to her own ventriloquism, which isn't always convincing when a 70-year-old man's voice comes from a middle school child. Additionally, despite being possessed by Chino's grandfather, Tippy, the rabbit itself, is female. Tippy is the main rabbit mascot of the series, as she's the one Chino's always wearing on her head, but there are two other rabbits, one for each main cafe. Anko is the name of Chiya's black rabbit, and he either stays still or on the rare occasion that he does move, he moves with quite a lot of enthusiasm. The trigger for his enthusiasm tend to be Syaro and Tippy. He's often wearing a crown, which Syaro gave to Chiya when they were younger as proof of their friendship. And also so Chiya could embark on world domination, but that's not important. Wild Geese is a stray rabbit that decided to move into Syaro's house without her consent, and she's too scared to chase it away. Aside from the songs that serve as the endings, openings, and finales of the anime, there are literally hundreds of original character songs that serve as characters' internal monologues. And I'm not talking about some OSTs here, I'm talking about completely separate from the show, but still voiced by the same voice actors. They often reference events in the show and manga, and overall they're pretty cute. I think some of that music is in my top 10, and I recommend giving it a listen, though be warned, there is a lot of it. This isn't something that all people who watch the anime would know, but since there are a lot of people outside the franchise who know of them, I put them in the middle ground. I will leave a link to these in the description. On the topic of music, Daydream Cafe is credited as being sung by the Petite Rabbits, which includes Cocoa, Chino, Rize, Chiya, and Syaro, or the main five. Therefore, those five together are often referred to as the Petite Rabbits. The reason I came to the conclusion that many people outside the franchise would know of Gochiusa's character songs is that they are prominent in the rhythm game Osu. In particular, a very popular ranked map was made using the song Shinsaku no Shiawase wa Kochira, though this is far from the only popular ranked map from Gochiusa. There also happen to be a few skins designed by Gochiusa fans, but the same is true for most franchises. The next item on the iceberg are Phantom Thief Lapin and Magical Girl Chino. These are alter egos worn by Syaro and Chino respectively. In the anime, Phantom Thief Lapin is a character that Aoyama Blue Mountain created within the universe of Gochiusa based on Syaro, though the way she got this inspiration may be considered by some to be unethical. Syaro then gets asked by her employer to cosplay the character since the description matches her to a T on account of the fact that, well, it's literally her. Magical Girl Chino appears in the movie and is a fever dream had by Cocoa when she goes to visit home. more on Aoyama Blue Mountain, that is the pen name of the author character, which was given to her by the former master of Rabbit House, Chino's grandfather. In her high school days, she ran around helping clubs here and there, gaining a reputation and spawning the legend of Miss Emerald. These rumors were actually the subject of an investigation by Syaro and Rize, who attended that same school. They eventually figure out that Aoyama is Miss Emerald and that her real name is Midori. She writes several books based on those around her, including The Barista Who Wanted to Become a Rabbit, based on Chino's grandfather, Caffeine Fighter and Phantom Thief Lapin, both of which are based on Syaro, and Bakery Queen, which is based on Mocha. I promise this will be the last Aoyama entry in a row. I mentioned that she wrote many books based on Syaro, and the way she gathered material for them is by hanging around the cafe she works at and observing, or as the rest of the cast puts it, peeping at her. Eventually, this got so bad that her editor charged after her, yelling, "Stop right there, Aoyama Sexual Harassment Mountain." If it wasn't obvious by Cocoa and Mocha's names, almost all of the characters are named after something drink-related. Cocoa and Mocha don't really need an explanation. Cappuccino is cappuccino, which makes sense in Japanese because F and P are very closely related. Tedesarize is some French tea that I cannot for the life of me pronounce. Ujimatsu Chiya shortens to Ujimatcha, which is a brand of green tea, and Kirimashiro is Kilimanjaro coffee. Joga Maya refers to Joga Maya tea, and Natsu Megumi is named after nutmeg. As such, she is often referred to as Megu rather than Megumi. And since we're on the topic of names, let's loop back to Chimame Tai. It consists of Chino, Maya, and Megu, but since Maya and Megu are childhood friends, they are often together even without Chino. Thus, Chimame turns into just Mame, which in Japanese translates to beans. Hence why both in-universe and out, Maya and Megu are referred to as the beans, and the main 7 are sometimes called petite rabbits with beans. I've been told this sounds like a fancy restaurant dish, and you know what? They're not wrong. Rize is often depicted holding a gun. Military obsession is one of her defining traits after all, but is the gun she carries on hand actually just a model, or does she have the makings of an American? In Season 1, Episode 7, she gives Cocoa the gun while also giving her tips on how to handle the recoil and control her aim, implying that the gun is real. However, there's evidence to the contrary as well, as when Maya asks for it in Season 1, Episode 10, she refers to it as a model gun. And this isn't her just thinking it's fake, as she actually held it in her hands 4 episodes earlier. When Maya first whips out the gun in the manga, Tippy doesn't say anything, but when she brings out the knife, he says, "Don't bring dangerous things into the cafe," implying that the knife is real but the gun is not. Maya also refers to it as a model gun in this chapter as well. In the Season 1 opening, Chino opens the blinds and sends in Maya and Megu to wake up Cocoa. This is a cute scene, but we can go cuter. Those with a keen eye might notice that the bed is yellow. However, time and time again, we've been shown that Cocoa's bed is pink, and it's actually Chino who has a yellow bed, meaning that Cocoa and Chino were sharing a bed before waking up in the opening. In Season 2, there are a couple of references to Shonen manga, namely where Cocoa asks everyone to lend her their power, and Chiya wields 3 drink trays at once, which are references to Dragon Ball and One Piece respectively. I think the implication that Cocoa is going to use the Spirit Bomb on a curtain while in character is absolutely diabolical. This is Roze. You might look at her and think, wait a minute, that's just Rize. And, well, you'd be right. Roze is an alter ego that Rize came up with when Cocoa and Chino caught her trying on clothes she had just bought and getting her hair done. Feeling she was acting far too girly, she pretended to be someone else. This happens again when she's seeking advice from Chiya and again feels like she's acting too girly and pretends to be Roze once more. This comes to a head when Rize deliberately goes with Cocoa and Chino back to Rabbit House disguised as Roze and wears her own uniform to see how long it will take them to notice. Cocoa only notices when Rize accidentally pulls out her gun, and Chino, well, doesn't. The OST of Gochiusa is pretty standard and unassuming, except for track 1 of disc 1, which is named Kimi no Skato Take ni Kubitake, which translates to I'm in love with the length of your skirt, probably a reference to Aoyama. Rin, Aoyama's editor, is portrayed as always nagging her for her manuscript, and once the characters are introduced, you hardly see one without the other. But during the episode Aoyama's Slump Mountain, which takes place before Rin is introduced, Aoyama quits her job as an author and we hear nothing about Rin or her reaction to this information. It's later shown that they were together since high school, so it wouldn't make sense for Rin to just not have been working with her at the time, especially since she references her in the pool episode. What seems like a small plot hole just because Rin hadn't been formally introduced yet, can be turned tragic if we consider the possibility that after her resignation, Rin may just have been too sad to chase after the author. With a mostly female cast and some very intimate and wholesome moments, a lot of the show's relationships have been interpreted as Yuri. It's hard not to when moments like this are scattered throughout the whole series and between almost every character. The standout among them is Rize Syaro. There are some who interpret it as purely admiration, and some who interpret it as Yuri. There is concrete evidence that it was definitely romantic interest at first, such as when Syaro thinks of Rize when she mistakes Chiya's intentions for love talk in Season 1. Later on, as the characters mature and get closer, it becomes a lot less clear and a lot more open to interpretation. Before the character is properly introduced, we see Aoyama Blue Mountain wandering around the city as a background character, and we get to see the 4 high schoolers as well as the author in the background of Tokimeki Poporon for a few seconds. And that about covers layers 1 and 2. If you're new to the franchise, you may have heard some of these terms flying around, or maybe you've just heard about the potentially not Season 4 announcement and are interested in checking it out. Either way, stay tuned because next week we're diving a layer deeper into Gochiusa.